the movie version of Godspell, which some of you may not know this song was from, Stephen Schwartz, who wrote the music and lyrics for the song, added it to the movie version. And it's called Beautiful City, in case you didn't know that. In subsequent stage productions, the song with rewritten lyrics were placed in various places, usually in the second act. One version had the character of Jesus singing it during the Last Supper scene in the musical, reminding his disciples and the world to have hope and faith and to carry the message of love, peace, and personal responsibility. The lyrics begin with, "Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope, one pale, thin ray, reaching for the day?" It's a question he poses. When I was reading the lyrics, it reminded me that so many of us are feeling that way, witnessing these conditions that are going on of injustice, misogyny, hate, disrespect, disease, unemployment, and fear. And so we have to ask ourselves some days, out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of this night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale, thin ray reaching for the day? How do you answer that question? Well, when I was looking around for the lyrics and some information about the biography of this song, I came upon a post on a site called musicalschwartz.com. It's a fan site of Stephen Schwartz musical folk. And there was a post from a gentleman called Clark A. And he wrote about a story, about an event that happened to him with this song. These are his words. "We were a combat support hospital unit caring for the wounded soldiers and Marines from the Syrian border in the west to the Iranian border in the east. I lived in a dorm-like building on the hospital campus and had become friends with a few soldiers from the other unit who liked to go up to the roof and hang out for a few evenings a week to just chill out a bit. The rule was that everyone brought a few tunes to contribute, things we really enjoyed. The more obscure, the better. Our porch had a great view of southeastern Baghdad, which is usually a very pretty part of town if you can look past the destruction. And it was overlooking the helicopter pad to the west and the Tigris River to the east. We took mortar and rocket fire out there daily, often at night, which provided us with spectacular fireworks displays and a bit of excitement once in a while. It was a gorgeous mid-May evening, about 80 degrees and balmy, with a warm, gentle breeze out of the west and a million stars above us. It was my turn to DJ, and I just downloaded a long missed treasure off the internet of songs that I was eager to share with the crew. We topped off our drinks, sat back to watch a helicopter full of wounded soldiers departing for Germany, and a flaming orange sun began to settle into the horizon, the sky turning a million shades of purple and blue. It had been busy that day, patient-wise, and we were all a little frayed around the edges and needing some mental healing. I queued up Beautiful City for them. War does funny things to people immersed in it, he says. Sometimes it makes you bitter or cynical or angry. Sometimes things that would normally make you smile don't. Things that you'd never worry about fill you with blinding rage. Suffering that would make a statue cry doesn't faze you. And sometimes a sweet, silly song from a 30-year-old musical makes you smile. I'm sure, he says, none of you imagine that 4 scared and homesick soldiers caught up in the madness of a war in the desert would ever listen to it and feel better if only for a few minutes, but it happened. We all noticed the city we were in, an ancient and yet modern city struggling to rebuild itself after the onslaught of the American war machine and decades of abuse and terror under Saddam Hussein in a different way that evening. We saw past the crumbled buildings, shell craters, and broken windows, and saw a beautiful city that we'd had all around us for so long but had never noticed before. The white stucco walls, the orchids and roses and other dazzling flowers that nobody knew the names of, the tree-lined boulevards, the shadowed fronds of the date palms. It was shocking how a song none of them had ever heard before had lifted a curtain from before their eyes, revealing a side of their existence they had been hiding. After the song ended, I sat quietly waiting for their response. Normally, we were a pretty talkative bunch telling stories that corresponded with our song choices, but we sat silently, each looking into the distance, lost in thought for a moment or two. It was a moment, he said, I'll never forget, nor will they. It was interrupted by a rocket that sailed right over our heads and forced us to flee the rooftop, but that was okay too, because we'd gotten our break, and that was all we could ask for. Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope, one pale, thin ray, reaching for the day? Yes, we can. Yes, we must. Today happens to be Parents' Day. So for all of you parents that worked hard with love and patience and time and treasure and your talent to support your children, not just with a roof over their heads and nourishing food in their bellies, but with words of wisdom and encouragement, teaching them ethics and what justice is all about and kindness. Well, I send blessings and gratitude to you. What makes a good parent? The UN described on the 2012 Global Parents' Day a parent as a selfless person committing to children and a lifelong sacrifice towards nurturing the relationship between the child and the parent. Today is probably a good day to communicate with one or both or all. Many of us have many parents of many kinds, some not blood. Tell them you love them, appreciate them, thank them for the good, forgive them for the bad. Not to condone any of the bad, by the way, just to forgive it so that we can forgive ourselves and move on and not have that on our shoulders all the time, pushing down our lives and our hearts. And for many of us, our best parent and our best parenting now comes from ourselves, our best selves, our divine selves that is always there and always will be there. It is with that inward parent that we now have that conversation that we would have with our real parent or parents, where we can build now a beautiful city within us, in our mind and our heart, and then of course thus outside of us. Now, I found this article from Psychology Today. I find a lot of articles in Psychology Today, written by a therapist, Linda Esposito. It was called Helpful Self-Parenting Tips. So I want to give you a few of those. Her first one was Fall in Love with Boundaries. That's a great one. Fall in love with boundaries. Define what is okay and what is not okay. We saw a great expression of this, a great idea of this moving forward. Very impressed. I was very proud when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke Friday in the House about what happened to her, and as an example of what happens to too many women, to too many people in general, but in this case, women. And she spoke of that and created a boundary. She had created a boundary, as she said in her speech about it, to that other person, but she created a boundary for us all. To demand respect, to demand kindness. And if you can't respect and be kind, if you can't respect or be kind, then don't come talking to me until you can. Take care of yourself, Linda Esposito tells us. You are what you eat, think, and believe. Stress takes a physical toll. So be mindful of what you put in your body, your heart, and your mind. I say that all the time. Here's another one that you've heard from me. Practice mindfulness to help you stay in the here and now. Work your calm plan. I love that. Work your calm plan. What is your calm plan? Your relaxation routine. Your relaxation. Where's your relaxation? I like that word. That's a new word. Your relaxation routine. Do it each and every day. Learn how to self-soothe. And, that's all spiritual practice. That's yoga. That's exercise. That's deep breathing. That's all that stuff. Getting outside and sitting under a tree. All those things that I've told you about before. Practice that every day. I have to remind myself to get up off that seat, if PJ's not here to remind me, to get off that chair and out of the front of the computer and get up and walk around. Get up and be part of life. Because I sit there and I work and I write, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's wonderful. But I have to take a break to live life to the fullest, as well as be creative and do work. Allow yourself to experience vulnerability, she says, dependency, and other emotional states. A common tendency she talks about is to reject help from others now because we're self-reliant. We're adults. And many of us, had to be self-reliant when we were children. Well, we can take that self-reliance now and expand it to others. Because being overly independent is not a healthy coping skill as an adult, especially as a child, but as an adult too. Humans are wired to connect, and even though you may not be connecting physically right now, you still can connect by phone, by something similar to this, by speaking on FaceTime or something like that. It will help you recover from where you are. Another way, of course, is to call the Spiritual Center. Call the New Thought Spiritual Center and ask for some help. We have practitioners. I can speak with you, give you counseling, spiritual counseling, and know the truth for you. That's a way to reach out, to be vulnerable, to not be dependent only on yourself, but to allow yourself and open yourself for healing. Keep the adult tantrums to a minimum by observing your behaviors and how they influence negative interactions. We all project our crap, to put it plainly, unto others. And we have to self-reflect about that, catch ourselves in the moment so that we can stop it right then and there. Apologize and move forward. Do the ho'oponopono right there and now. Never underestimate the healing powers of good night's rest. She talks about a daytime nap, yoga, of course, lots of water, healthy eats, and Of course, the big one, quality chocolate. Try and see the world as an inherently safe place where most people possess goodwill. You know, most people do possess goodwill. I know a lot of people out there might be living in an area that is seemingly full of people who aren't about goodwill. They're narcissistic, they are jealous of others, they are stamping their feet. You can't take away my rights to not wear a mask, and all these things that are being said. I wanted to say silly. You saw it in my mouth, but I thought better. But now I said it, so there you have it. See the world as a better place, because those are few and far between. And even though they're there, we need to bless them for their greatest and their furthest. Their greatest life, because we want everyone to have a great life, because the more people that have a great life, the more great life there is of energy in the world. But we also want them to not be near us, and that's okay. They can go have their great life, or what will become their great life, somewhere else. She ends her article by saying, even your actual parents probably never taught you how to do this, but we need to do this for ourselves, parent ourselves. The title of this talk is Mother, Father, Me. Many of you have heard the phrase Mother, Father, God, knowing that the divine is not a gender, but society has given it a gender, and different genders have been brought to it, and they misrepresent that we are in the image of God idea that is written in the Old Testament in Genesis, by it being an image like what you would see in the mirror, where that is not true. It is an image of the energy, the power that is within us. That is the energy and image and likeness of the divine. Let's get back to the song. It says, we may not reach the ending, but we can start. Slowly but surely mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we start learning how. So whether it's parenting yourself, your children, your community, or the world, we build a beautiful city ourselves of divine love, grace, peace, and justice. Now, throughout the incarnations of this song, the fundamental theme of beautiful city has remained intact. That all of us as a society has within its power the ability to build a truly civilized, kind, and respectful community. We must insist on that. But it begins by a personal choice, our personal choices, our boundaries that we put up. The song says, when your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can give up bitter and battered. You can slowly start to build a beautiful city. You can, yes, we can, the song says, not a city of angels, these mythical beings that are out there, but we can finally build a city of man, meaning mankind, meaning humankind, meaning each and every one of us. We can build a city, an angelic city, even if you're not in the city of angels. An angelic city where all living things contribute in integrity, love, peace, respect, and kindness. I want to leave you with a quote. Many of these ideas I've brought to you before, but I saw it reiterated recently in a video I was watching of Tony Robbins, and he expressed it in this way, and I'll add some commentary throughout it. He said, love what is. Whatever life delivers, find a way to love it, even the unlovable, and your life will be magnificent. Now I want to add, you don't have to like it. And it may well seem impossible or be impossible to like it. and seemingly impossible to love it, but do it anyway. Love it. You don't have to like it. He continues with, if you can find grace in your worst experience, then maybe your worst experience has become your best. It's a lesson, these negative experiences that come up now and again in our lives. It's perhaps a miracle redeeming you with this lesson that you can draw strength from, that betters your life, that strengthens your life, that empowers you and informs you more. We see that, of course, as we and after we especially take care of the condition or the situation, we see that as a lesson, and we can move forward in a greater and stronger and more enlightened life. He continues with, there's no question we are all going to experience injustice, and some of us experience it much too often. The only question, he says, is what will you do with it? Will you become the victim or the victor? The way you become the victor, he says, is to overcome it. You don't justify it, you don't support it, but you know, if you have 100% responsibility, and by that he means not for the event, but for what you're going to, how you're going to react to the event. That's what you have 100% responsibility for what you're going to do with it, he says. Then you can take the bull by the horns, as they say, and lead it to where you need to lead it. So you become victorious in that situation, that negative situation. And even in the positive situations. We can get lost in the positive situations. Sometimes we have to bust through those before we soar and zoom, because we can get lost in the beauty of a positive situation and stagnate. He continues with, everything in our life is a blessing or a lesson. Even the unconscionable, even the unjust, even the unimaginable. Remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, so that you can continue to live, to create, to express the divine in you. Don't let anybody or anything that's happening in your life or has happened in your life stop you or slow you down. Not the past, your age, your education, your situation or condition of any kind. Continue to tell your story through the divine love that is within you and the tenacity that is built in you, whether you have been aware of it or revealed it or used it or not. It is there for you to grasp, so that you can vibrate at the speed of the divine, so that you can, as Tony Robbins said, you can truly give back to those you love, as well as this country, your country, wherever it is, and of course the planet that we all love. Parent yourself well, my friends. And remember to speak these words to power. These words that are this week's affirmation. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God in me, the almighty divine love. I am free at last to embody peace, prosperity, health, love, joy, and happiness. I do so in the fullness of spirit and with gratitude in my heart. I am free to see it my way, free to see it independent, bold, brave, loving, opulent, succulent, full of laughter, grace, and unlimited choices. My life, your life, is full of fantastic opportunities. Take your inner child by the hand. Step on that cloud we talked about in the guided meditation. Put that puzzle together of how you want to envision your life and live it. Live it to the fullest, right here, right now. Mother, Father, God, you. Peace and blessings to you all. Namaste.